I have a tinfoil hat theory about Warhammer 40,000. I'm pretty sure I'm right, and a part of me doesn't want to confirm it in case my dreams are shattered. My theory is that the designers came up with an idea for the Shokk Attack Gun first, and then wrote the rules for Warhammer 40,000 just so they could play with it. I also have a theory that the giant Stormcast Eternal outside Warhammer World is hollow, and will one day crack open like a cocoon to reveal a Stormcast Vindicator. I mean, these theories aren't true. Rogue Trader was released in 1987, the first appearance of the Shokk Attack Gun was 4 years later, and that statue is filled with cocaine and hookers. But it easily could be true. When it was originally released, it got 9 pages of some of the wildest and most detailed rules going, in a time when you still needed a third-party games master to tell you what units were in cover or not. Yes, you heard me correctly, 9 pages, and only one of those is a full-page image. Pretty much the rest were block text, and this was when the magazine had under 60 pages of content. The article was 150% larger than the one they used to introduce the 4th edition of Warhammer Fantasy, and 1 page larger than the entire core rules for 8th edition 40k. And that's just the gun itself. This was the same issue that gave us Orc Mechanics, who got 13 pages of rules, which included 2 different card decks that you cut out of the magazine. One you gave to your opponent to cause malfunctions, and one for the repairs the mechs would have to make to fix the issues, like cyborg parts malfunctioning, wheels coming off vehicles, and Orc units misbehaving. For the sake of sanity, the rules were significantly reduced and tidied up for the 2nd edition's Codex Orcs, and that's where we are going to start this journey. The Shokk Attack Gun really is an elegant weapon for a more civilized age, where Orcs were wild football hooligans and the faction as a whole didn't take itself too seriously. Sadly, it was also an age where whoever was laying out the book also didn't take their job too seriously, as trying to create a Shokk Attack Gun team led to more flicking around the rulebook than a choose-your-own-adventure book. I'll save you some time here. The mechanic is 18 points, the Shokk Attack Gun is 25, the Runt Herd is 18, and then you need between 2 and 10 Snotlings that will be fired during the course of the battle at 5 points each. So your basic unit with 5 Snotlings comes to 86 points. If you took 7 Snotlings, it would come to 96 points, which would be useful for avoiding losing extra victory points if it was wiped out, and a full strength unit with 10 Snotlings would come to 111 points. You can take up to 4 Gretchen assistants both for the mech and the Runt Herd, but they don't provide any in-game bonuses apart from looking cool. The mech can take 3 War Gear cards, so you have an option for a power field of some kind, or maybe telescopic legs allowing to raise himself up 2 inches in the shooting phase. The Runt Herd can take 1 War Gear card, maybe a scanner to find hidden models, because aggressive hide and seek was a thing at this time. The Snotlings would function as ammo. You picked how many you wanted to use that turn, and then rolled that many times against the table depending on the target's type. The usually difficult to kill Dreadnoughts, Robots, Wraithguard and Terminators would be instantly killed on a 3+, with lucky 6s causing the model to move in a random direction, firing its weapons straight ahead. Good luck trying to negotiate how that worked with your opponent. Foot Troops rolled on a different table, and by Foot Troops this could be anything from an Imperial Guardsman up to an Avatar, Greater Demon or Hive Tyrant. These would get off a bit lighter, usually with a single wound unless they passed an armor save, unless you got those 6s, in which case they would be instantly killed. Vehicles weren't so lucky. They were only instantly killed on a 5+, but on a 3 or 4 the crew would all need to take armor saves or take a wound, so anything manned by Guardsmen, other Orcs or Elder Guardians could easily be flushed out in a single shot. Support weapons would be destroyed on a 4+, and most of the time all the models hiding in a bunker would need to take armor saves unless you got that 6, in which case a Snotling would land in an ammo case, and for some reason this would result in an explosion that would instantly kill every one of them and level the entire bunker. Of course, the chance to instantly kill everything in sight did have a drawback. It was inaccurate, and in later FAQs it counted as a vehicle and therefore could potentially be picked out during a game if the Orc player didn't have anything else to throw in front of it as a viable target. In 2nd edition, the Shokk Attack Gun was fun, but nothing in the rules screamed totally overpowered and broken, and that's because we are still dealing with the watered down version of the weapon. If you think 2nd edition is strange, Rogue Trader is a whole different beast, and if you forget your safe word there, someone is going to hospital. In Rogue Trader, you would get an entrance and an exit template. The exit wouldn't automatically collapse, so you had the choice to leave it in position for another turn of firing Snotlings into it. You could also make a ranging shot to send just 1 Snotling through, so that you could position the template and wait for a turn before sending the rest. If you did send a stand of Snotlings through, any missed shots would involve the Snotlings staying on the board in a tight unit and charging any model within 8 inches of them at the start of the turn. If it's an enemy unit, they attack them in combat. However, if an Orc unit moves within 8 inches, the Snotlings charge them and glue themselves to the Orcs in some kind of perpetual death hug, rendering them unable to move or fire until an enemy unit moved within 8 inches. And as that's unlikely to happen, that would mean the whole Orc unit would be trapped for the entire game. Now, I think this was designed to penalise the firing player. However, the rules, as always, aren't clear, so in an Orc versus Orc matchup, whoever brought the Shokk Attack Guns could gum up the enemy army in a few turns. This wasn't even a case of deliberately misreading the rules or them being ambiguously worded. A Shokk Attack team of one or more bases may immobilize an entire Orc unit regardless of its size. Rules as written, your only way out of this fate would be to try and petition whatever player was acting as the GM for your game of Rogue Trader to try and find some in-universe thematic solution. However, trying to work out how people actually played Rogue Trader is like speculating about cavemen wearing jellyfish for hats. They may have done, but no one recorded it and the fossil records have all been destroyed. So what happened when 3rd edition rolled around? With the amount of love the Orcs had back then, surely it would get some amazing rules or models or something. I usually like to end these videos with a brief summary of the changes when 3rd edition was released. However, in this case, Orc Shokk Attack Guns went the way of those jellyfish to cavemen wore as hats, and they got completely annihilated. Orc Shokk Attack Guns were brutally cut out for an entire decade. There was no mention of it in 3rd edition beyond a custom weapon you can give to a magpie. They were a casualty of the much more, quote, serious, combat-focused Orc army, along with boar boys and most of their weird artillery. Orcs went through their terrible twos and into their sulky teenage phase for 10 years, until the Shokk Attack Gun finally reappeared in 2008 and the game was much the better for it. If you like this video, check out our Ko-fi page where you can hang out with all the sexy people who also support this channel. You can access things like the roadmap for the channel and pre-released content, and in certain tiers, art assets and your own custom icon on the channel credits screen here. If you like learning about the other weird and wacky units in the 2nd edition of 40k, check out the video on the Tyrannid Screamer Killer here, and I'll see you next time.